Hello and welcome to the greatest Speed Duel collaboration in Speed Duel history. I don't know if that's actually true or not, but we're going to go with it because here we have four of the biggest Speed Duel people. I know I'm one of them, it's really cool. First, my co-founder of Yu-Gi-Oh! Legacy, it's Lucas Gaylord. How's it going, man?
Hello, my friends.
Second up, we have one of the biggest Speed Duel YouTubers ever. It's Cursive. What's up, Cursive?
Not much, man. You know, I'm excited to be here. Excited to do some expanded card pool stuff.
Yep. And finally, we have the man whose Discord is host to some of the biggest Speed Duel online tournaments that have taken place. That's 5 Dimension TCG. How's it going, man?
Hello everybody, I agree to be here.
Alright, so what we're talking about today, as you may have already heard Cursive say, is the expanded card pool for Speed Duels that the four of us have done a lot of work in putting together. As you can see on the screen here, this is a channel in Yu-Gi-Oh! Legacy Discord where it's under the Speed Duel expanded card pool section. It's called Information. So here it's going to show you pretty much how to play in the expanded card pool format. Since it's not an official format, it's not programmed into Dueling Book officially, so you pretty much have to go into the custom duel lobby, and your skills are actually just going to be custom card link monster cards, and your main deck skill is going to be in your extra deck, because if you know anything about the Yu-Gi-Oh! Advanced format, your link monsters go in the extra deck. So if your skills are going to be proxied as link monsters, that has to go over there. Your side deck skills will be link monsters in your side deck, which you will then swap out with the quote-unquote link monster in your extra deck. And of course, at the beginning of the duel, it'll start you off with the regular Yu-Gi-Oh! Rules. So you'll draw 5 and have 8,000 life points. So in addition to declaring the character that you are using, you don't have to reveal your skill until you actually activate your skill. So like you would flip it in a normal Speed Duel, that's when you would go ahead and summon it from your extra deck. But at the beginning of the duel, you will declare the character. So for example, if I'm playing Cocoon of Ultra Evolution, use a common one, I would declare Weevil at the beginning of the duel. And then, like I already said, when you use the skill, when I would actually activate Cocoon, I would then flip, special summon it from my extra deck in substitution of flipping it face up. And then, like I talked about a few minutes ago, as you have 5 cards in your hand at 8,000 life points, you put the 5th card that you drew back into your deck, you shuffle, you activate Solemn Judgment, or pretend you're activating Solemn Judgment, you lose 4,000 life points, and then you would just play a normal Speed Duel. So it takes like 30 seconds or so of setup at the start of the duel, but it's really easy, and once you've done it a couple times and you're used to it, it'll feel like basically nothing. And then we're going to go into the card pool here. As you can see here, we have the monster side of the expanded card pool open with the normal and effect monsters here in the main deck pool. You have your rituals, your 2 rituals, and all your fusion monsters in the extra, and then whatever remains space over in the side deck as well. So your extra and side that you're looking at here are going to be all your options for your fusion and your ritual monsters. These are the monsters, and in that same Discord channel will be 2 links where you can click on, there's a link for this monster pool, and then I'm going to go ahead and there's another link for this spell and trap card pool that you see now, as well as in the extra deck of the spell and trap card pool is where we have all the skills that we're adding as part of this expanded card pool. So we're going to go ahead and talk in detail about these skills, since these are like brand new cards that have like never been printed in this way in any Yu-Gi-Oh! Format before. So I'll go ahead and start by talking about a skill that I really like, which is Red Eyes Fusion. So this skill is based on the Red Eyes Fusion spell card, but we thought that spell card would be too powerful to add itself, so we're just going to go ahead and add this as a skill. So we gave it a cost of 1,500 life points, not half, because we don't want it to be abusable in late game, but at the same time we want it to have a slightly lower cost if you were to use it at the beginning, because it does have we think more restrictions on it than something like Inner Conflict. Let me just read the rest of the skill. You fusion summon a fusion monster that lists a Red Eyes monster as material from your extra deck. So first of all, the best targets you even have for this are Black Skull and Meteor Black Dragon. So there's nothing even like super overpowered target for the card anyway. And then you have to use fusion materials from your hand, deck, or field. And then if you do, that card's name becomes Red Eyes Black Dragon. And you cannot normal special summon the other monsters the turn you activate this card. Now that's the big restriction on the card, is that it really prevents that OTK. Because unless you already have something else set up, even if you summon, say, Meteor Black Dragon, it's only 3,500, so even if that attacks directly, you're not going to get the extra 500 damage by summoning a monster on the same turn as Red Eyes Fusion. And of course, it can only be used once per duel, so once you use it, you've made your big play, that's your skill, it's done. So we think for that reason it's very balanced. So I'm going to go ahead and pass it on to Lucas, and if there's a skill you want to talk about, go ahead.
Yeah, so we also added Metamorphosis. You pay 1,000 life points, so you can tribute a monster, could be face up or face down, to summon a future monster from the extra deck. There's not many targets, like some of the targets only require fusion summon or require specific materials. So I think this card could be very useful for summoning Thousand Eyes Restrict. It could also summon Fiend's Dragon, Ryusenchi, Dark Balter. So yeah, and it's once per duel. So I don't think it's abusable as Cocoon or Inner Conflict, because you're paying 1,000 life points and you also have to have your own resource to tribute for a specific monster. So yeah, on to Kursov.
Yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and skip right to the start of the skills here and talk about Black Metal Armor. This is basically a skill that works with Red Eyes Black Metal Dragon, so it makes the card actually usable, which is something that is nice to see. It has a little restriction here where you have to have Red Eyes Black Dragon on field or in your graveyard to actually activate the skill. This makes it so it's not generic for any deck like the Red Eyes Fusion is. If you play the cards you need, you basically need to play it in a Red Eyes deck so you can actually have access to Red Eyes regardless. It is a once per duel skill, and you have to also discard a card to go about its effect. Once again, balancing things. And you actually banish your Red Eyes Black Dragon and Metalmorph from your hand or deck to special summon the Red Eyes Black Metal Dragon. This is going to stop things like Spirit and Abuse like that. And yeah, you cannot special summon or normal summon monsters during the turn use the effect. Same restriction as Red Eyes Fusion, so you can't go in and just OTK. But the big thing here is that you get a Red Eyes Black Metal Dragon that is unaffected by your opponent's skill effects, making it immune to Nightmare Sonic Blast, Twisted Personality, and the main two being Inner Conflict and Cocoon of Ultra Evolution. And yeah, 5 dimension, you can go ahead and grab a skill now.
Yes, I wanna talking about of fusion summon, the skill, because this try to solve the problematic of the fusion mechanic. Because every time you fusion summon, you draw a card. That's balanced because if you fusion summon a monster, is usually a cost 3 of summon. You lost 3 cards to make one fusion summon. That fusion summon is really balanced because we don't have too many powerful targets. You don't have Dark Cavalry, for example. You have a Gaia Fusion or whatever. Then you recover 1 card. Then this makes try to solve the problem of this. And maybe you can make a good fusion deck or just not that bad fusion deck for this.
Alright, and I'm going to talk about a skill that we took straight out of Duel Links. It's Harpies Hunting Ground. So it's a My Valentine skill, of course. And it's going to go ahead and have the same effect as the field spell Harping Hunting Ground. So the skill pretty much just makes you start off with Harpies Hunting Ground, the field spell, on your field already, and without impacting your starting hand. So it's an attempt to actually make Harpies playable, because you have your first Hunting Ground basically as a free 5th card, and then, but that's it, that's all your skill does, so it's balanced in that way. And then you can obviously, since it's already in the Speed Duel card pool without even us having to add it, it was already there. So you can always run Harpies Hunting Ground, the card, in your main deck as well as a backup. So you don't just auto lose to Dust Tornado. Like something like Heavy Metal Raiders, that's for example, a lot of times, because not only do you get one less card in your hand, so we took that restriction off, but Heavy Metal Raiders is also not a card in the Speed Duel card pool. So you would have to recycle it from the graveyard. So we don't want to put that additional burden on Harpy players. So this is just, I think, the perfect skill to make Harpies at least playable and maybe even good.
Yeah, so then we have the Circus Rig. I think this is in honor of the Duel Links deck that plays the Grass Crown, and then you play cards that change battle position. So I made this skill to bring that deck into Speed Duel. So what this skill does is that at the moment that Dream Clown or Grass Clown are summoned, you can immediately use the skill to change their battle position. And because of the skill rule protections, this means that when they're summoned, you can't activate Floodgate Trap Hole. You can't use Offerings to the Doom on summon. You have to wait until they summon, change battle position, trigger the effect, and after the effect, then you can activate something. So it gives them that protection. At the same time, it's not abusable in the sense that you can't use it every single turn, just when they're summoned. But also that means that you can use it when they're special summoned by Zambina. And then it has another effect, and if you control no monsters, you just banish one Dream Clown, one Grass Clown, and then you special summon a Biguri box from the extra deck. And it's a once per turn for each skill.
But yeah, moving on to the final skill here that has been added to the expanded card pool, we have none other than Mask of Restrict. At the start of the duel, flip this card over. Neither player can tribute monsters owned by their opponent. For anyone who doesn't understand what the purpose of this skill is, it's basically here to have something that can shut down the two biggest decks in the current format of Speed Duels, that being your Moth decks playing Cocoon of Ultra Evolution and your Inner Conflict decks. You can't Parasite tribute your opponent's monsters because of Mask of Restrict. You also can't Conflict tribute your opponent's monsters because of Mask of Restrict. It's going to make these decks a lot weaker and also help the new decks that are being added see more playability, because we added none of those broken out your opponent's monsters, summon big crazy monsters effects in the expanded card pool, because the overall goal was to make decks that could compete with the current best decks in the format, but not power creep them into oblivion. We want to avoid that, not power creep, but make other decks that can compete. And Mask of Restrict is going to definitely help a lot with that.
Yeah, exactly. The point was to diversify the format we had rather than to just like completely create a brand new one and not have the old cards played at all. So now let's talk about the support we've given certain fun and popular archetypes. So Lucas, do you want to talk about something?
Yeah, we all had water support. So the main one was Abyss Soldier. I think it has a really decent attack, really decent effect. I think it can only be abused in water decks, which is fine because we all know that water decks already struggle. And then we also had dinosaur decks. So if you look at the Jurek Titano, it's a target for a double evolution pill. It's a boss monster. And another option for double evolution pill, we have Overtax Watlus, I think it's pronounced. We also gave it the Petit Ranodon to summon big monsters. So we have more options for dinosaur decks, especially with the double evolution pill. And then lastly, like we mentioned clowns. So here we have the Dream Clown, Crash Clown, and then if we move to the spell and traps, so we gave them Tragedy, Zero Gravity, and then something I want to point out before ending, it's the biggest staple that we gave to the format. We wanted a staple that's useful against Jinso, so we gave the format Shrink. So now we know that a lot of the format is gonna revolve around playing Shrink.
Yep. All right. So now we're going to let you go ahead and check out the rest of the card pool on your own so that we can show you something pretty cool, which is we are all going to show you a nice little sample deck here. And I'll go ahead and get us started. The deck I built here is you have your Red Eyes Fusion skill, you have your Red Eyes Black Dragon, and I went ahead and threw a Summon Skull in there instead of Meteor Dragon, just because I want to have a use for the Summon Skull fusion we added, which is Archfiend's Manifestation. So I think this is very good because you go ahead and send your Red Eyes and your Summon Skull at any time you want to your graveyard from your deck or hand. Then you can go ahead and also use Red Eyes Insight, which you add as a support card, to bury your Red Eyes and search for your Red Eye Spirit. This is a very good combo with the Champion's Vigilance, which you see I play at a 1 of. And then I also play Polymerization and King of the Swamp, which we added to go ahead and have additional options to fusion summon along with just your skill and your Dragon's Mirror, which obviously is a very powerful mid-game card, or maybe even late game card if it gets that far. And then the deck just needs some generic survivability. So for that you can do whatever you want, but I went ahead and went with the dragon theme and I put in a couple of Masked Dragon, which is new from the expanded card pool, as well as a couple of Exploder Dragon, which is also new from the expanded card pool. So the vast majority of this deck is new from the expanded card pool, and from testing we did find that it is a competitive deck. So just like that, you can see that you don't need old cards anymore to be competitive. And I did have a little side deck here in case you run into some issues, like if you run into Parasite, that's why we added Debunk as a hard counter to that. Now obviously if you're going to go ahead and pay 1500 life points to summon a big fusion monster like Black Skull Dragon, your deck is susceptible to something like Zoma. So because of that I've cited Dust Tornado, but there's many different options you could go for something like that. Because we have monster effects that can be annoying, set monsters, I went ahead and cited 1 Shield Crush as well as 1 Shrink in case there is a Perfectly Ultimate Great Moth that is out attack pointing you or some kind of similar situation. It's a very basic deck, very easy to put together, runs very smoothly with the Red Eyes Fusion skill. And with that I will pass it on to Lucas.
Alright, so we have the next deck, the Relinquish deck. So if you go there, you're gonna see it's just you don't use the skill for Thousand Eye spell. This time I made it, since you have pre-preparation of Rites and Manju, I think that's enough for you to play a good Relinquish engine. So I just put 2 Relinquish because pre-preparation can search from the graveyard, and then I added 3 Manjus, 3 Sphere Karibos because you need to survive the OTK. Then Relink Karibo because it lets you draw. It also lets you protect Relinquish from battle. And then of course the 3 Faceless because you want to maximize the chances for the loop. And then you have 1 Jinso because you need a body and sometimes you need to get rid of the spell of the traps from your opponent. So Relinquish is good for that. And then 2 Dust Tornadoes so that you can get rid of some of the back row. But the interesting part is the skill. Here the main deck skill was Shadow Reborn, because you can summon Relinquish so easily that if you lose Relinquish, you just pay half your life points, you suck a monster, and then you just pass your turn. So you can recover with just 1 skill, so it's really good this time. And then if you look at the side deck, we have another Jinso in case you need another body or another trap negation. And then another Relinquish in case you need all 3. And then 2 Jar of Avarice in case you run out of resources, because this deck is really fast. So sometimes you're gonna need more Relinquished or more Jinsos or more Sphere Karibos. So that's what your Jar of Avarice is for. But this plays 2 side deck skills. One is Massive Restrict, in case your opponent is playing something like Cocoon or Inner Conflict. And the other one is Metamorphosis. So it's really good here because you can distribute 1 Sphere Karibo, 1 Relink Karibo, 1 Relinquish into summoning either Millennium Ice Restrict or Thousand Ice Restrict. So it's very easy. You can also tribute a level 6 Jinso for an Archfiend's Manifestation, 300 beater, and then you can also tribute for Ryu Senshi, so it gets immune to Parasite. And then lastly, you can tribute Faceless with the skill, so you can summon Dark Vulture. Dark Vulture can negate spells or monster effects, and then you trigger a Faceless from the graveyard, and then special summon a Relinquish from your graveyard, so that could be a really cool interaction. So that's my Relinquish deck.
Alright, so Terra Master went and showed you guys a cute little Red Eyes deck. What I have here for you is a Blue Eyes deck, because you know, everyone loves their Blue Eyes. For those of you who played Duel Links, you'll know, Kid Moto Dragon was a very common card used in Blue Eyes at the start for the Synchro era, so we do have Kid Moto Dragon added here. Phenomenal, as it doesn't lose to Conflict or Parasite. If they do out it, its effect will trigger and you will get to summon a dragon from your hand, and your main target that you want to be able to grab here is the Blue Eyes Solid Dragon. Along with that, we also have Totem Dragon here. If you do set this first turn, it also doesn't lose to Conflict. Yes, they can take it, tribute it, but you will get it back on your turn to tribute it for a Blue Eyes or for a Solid Dragon here. And one Exploder just because it's an easy out to literally anything. Triple Blue Eyes White Dragon to pair off with the triple Blue Eyes Solid Dragon here. Why Solid Dragon is so good is because if your opponent tries to Parasite it, Solid Dragon can respond and tag itself out for a Blue Eyes and basically make the Parasite fizzle, which is amazing. We then have one Red Eyes and one Meteor for the Red Eyes Fusion. You need Meteor instead of Summon Skull because Totem Dragon only triggers if there's only dragons in grave. Offerings is easy out. Dragon's Mirror pairs super well with Red Eyes Fusion, and Triple Dust Tornado for those pesky back row cards. And in the side deck here, we have White Knight Dragon because the Solid Dragon Blue Eyes combo isn't as good if your opponent isn't playing Moth, so White Knight Dragon's a lot better there. But if they're playing Moth, we have Debunk, and for slower decks, we have Future Fusion, and, well, the extra deck is just a lot of good dragon targets for your Dragon's Mirror or for Red Eyes Fusion.
5 Dimensions, all you.
Go
Yes,
ahead.
I wanna talking about of Gaia deck. Gaia is a deck that is bad right now because the skill is good, but the restriction of no set cards literally kill the deck. Because if without this restriction, you can play Champion Vigilance or something like that, and the deck will be good. But we can't do that. Then I wanna try out the one fusion deck of Gaia. First, we have 2 King of the Swamps, the best fusion searcher because search polymerization. Then 2 Curse of the Dragon and 2 Gaia the Dragon, the Fierce Knight, because Vanillas in this deck have too many synergy with the fusion target and with the field spell. Then 2 Allure for consistency. You don't play too many monsters because this is an OTK deck. You play 3 double Cyclone because have synergy with the field spell, because the field spell search one of your targets, Curse of the Dragon or Gaia the First Knight. Then you can just double Cyclone to clear the field spell, clear a free card of the opponent. Then 2 Dragon Mirror because you need recovery. Fusion mechanic is a bad mechanic because every fusion monster is a cost 3 summon monster. You spend 3 cards to make 1 fusion monster. If your opponent out him, you lose. Then Dragon's Mirror helps to don't die, and it helps to OTK too because if you have 3 cards to fusion summon and 1 Dragon Mirror, you can OTK to the opponent. Then, 2 polymerization for make the fusion summons, and 2 summons art because for consistency, just consistency. If you see the side deck, I have Club of Hermos with the target of Club of Hermos because some match was difficult, but with Hermos it's more easy to win. the 3 spiral trap card is not in my main deck because it's hard to use it. The skill don't let you use set cards. You need to activate before activate the skill, or when your Gaia is died. If Gaia die, you can play the card, then summon Gaia again. But it's only good for stall matchup or other matchups that try to control you and don't try to decay you. The other is not in the picture, but is inner conflict for my side deck, because when you play with union monsters on mod monsters or whatever deck that plays meters that you can destroy by battle, because the attack of my fusion monster is too low, you need the skill to out this. Then in the extra deck we have the main monster fusion monster, Galloping Gaia, because Galloping Gaia had the effect that make the skill always live. Then you have the other 2 Gaia, the normal Gaia Dragon Champion, because you have 2 polymerizations and 2 Dragon Mirrors, then you need 4 summons for this. You never summon 4 Gaia, it's impossible, but you need the target. Then First of the Dragon, the new addition of the cardpool, because it's really support for vanilla decks, because it's a wall that let you stall the match 2 or 3 turns while you search the pieces of the combo. And then one Red Eyes War, because it's a Cloud of Hermon target and it's good for OTK. It's not that consistent, but it's good for OTK.
Yep, sounds like a Gaia deck. Not consistent. Okay. But that's not to say, obviously our testing hasn't been like very expansive with this expanded card pool, little pun there, but obviously we don't know for sure how good every single one of these decks are. Whatever we're telling you is only based on what we've built and what we've tested. So obviously, as always with new cards being added, there's room for tons of creativity, and I mean, we would love for you guys to just experiment with whatever decks that you can. So that's actually a perfect transition to talk about the tournaments that we're planning to have. And 5 Dimension, I'll let you talk about this first because you are hosting the first one, correct?
Yes. I would host the first one, the beta tournament of this. I wanna make a beta tournament before the main tournament of expanded card pool, because everybody needs test in more decks than every person needs test more, real test more. Will be a 3 deck tournament for maximum that. 3 deck tournament with round Swiss, maybe 3-4 rounds, then top 4, not top 8 because I wanna ending faster as possible. Then with the results of this tournament, if one card is too many broken, we pop out of the card pool, then we can make a solid expanded card pool, the first tournament that will be a prize tournament.
So, addition to 5 Dimension is hosting one beta tournament and then one big tournament after that. I do want to say that if you don't do well in those big tournaments, or let's say you enter a bad deck into the tournament, don't worry about it. We over here at Legacy are also planning to do live tournaments on weekends whenever I have time to host. So hopefully starting in October, most weekends, and I can't promise all because that's too big of a promise. Most weekends of October, at least 2 or 3, I'm hoping I will be able to host a live one-day tournament, so you can just make a deck and test it in a single elimination format, and it'll be a lot of fun. And then we also do want to host because we have so much time. We have to freaking December. So this is supposed to last us until then. So Legacy will also be hosting big tournaments too once 5 Dimensions is done hosting a big tournament. And then I had a special idea for Cursive. I don't know if you want to talk about that right now.
Yeah, so I definitely want to gauge some interest on this, as it isn't something that the Speed Duel community has really dove into a lot. But if anyone would be interested, please either tell me on my Discord or in the comment section of this video. The idea is to have a tag duel expanded card pool tournament take place over on my Discord. You guys can get together with a friend of yours, and I think it'll be a very, very fun idea.
And lastly, remember that Yu-Gi-Oh! Legacy has a way to play ranked. So if you look at the Discord, we have a rank bug. So you can play the expanded card pool ranked, and then all you have to do is you go to the correct channel, and then you type exclamation mark info, so it PMs you the info, and then you type exclamation mark bot, and it gives you all the commands to manage this. So yeah, you can play this rank mode, so you can play it anytime, even if there's no tournament ongoing. So you can be competitive outside the tournament and just play rank mode.
All right, so again, subscribe if you haven't already. The link to all of our Discords where all these tournaments will be held will be in the description below, as well as, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and link the card pool in the description below as well, just for your convenience, so that you can look at the card pool immediately while you're watching the video. And I think that's all we got to say. We will see you for the tag duel. This has been the greatest collaboration in Speed Duel history. The 4 of us are out. Next time on Yu-Gi-Oh! Legacy, a never-before-seen adventure of 4 duelists coming together in 2 separate teams to take on each other in a game that has never been seen before. Speed Duel. Tag?